Faces dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down here. It's August 18th. It's a Tuesday, which means we are taking your Tuesday thoughts in a variety of ways. You can tweet at us at Soccer Down here. You can hang out on the Twitch pitch, or some people still want to call it the locker room. We're deciding by Friday it's going to happen. That's at twitch.tv/Soccer Down here. You can also email us, soccerdownhere@gmail.com. Lots of stuff on the agenda this morning. We've got some talk about Inter Miami and developments and possible developments and kind of where things stand. Look around MLS as we get ready for a match tonight in Canada and more matches on Thursday and kind of getting this whole thing back underway this week. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Champions League semifinals that start today and where things stand there and all kinds of different rumors and things happening around the world. Lots of interesting developments over the last 24 hours or so. John, where do you want to start?
Well, actually, let's start with a carryover from last night. Nathan Pugh's in very early this morning.
Okay.
And he thinks that at Nicolifi should do a segment on the day after matches, reading off stats whilst talking like David Beckham.
I don't know if I want to get in trouble with that one. And I think Nick's going to need to practice the Beckham a little bit because it transformed a couple of times in the midst of the rant. And It was kind of disturbing. I mean, I think it gave me nightmares actually, but it could be interesting, but we're gonna have to be careful with that one.
Yeah, I think it has merit, but he's got to work on his pitch and he's got to work on the consistency of his David Beckham impression.
A little bit.
So we had that. Let's see. You want to go back over yesterday in the Europa before we come forward, or how do you want to play it today?
I ask you.
Well, I mean, you had asked me yesterday if I thought Shakhtar Donetsk had a chance, and I kind of cringed when you asked me that, and we now know why. It wasn't pretty. What was an 11 billion to nothing final, and Inter makes their way to the final to take on Sevilla.
Yeah, it wasn't good. Inter's a pretty beastly kind of team right now, though, and Inter and Sevilla in the final. Mr. Fantastic's already talking trash about Manchester United being upset from before. I think we already covered that, but yes, this is what these single game knockouts are doing. How many upsets have we seen in these single game knockouts? Maybe half.
Yeah.
I mean, of the non-favored team going through, maybe half.
Yeah.
90 minutes creates chaos. This was the same thing we talked about going into the MLS playoffs when they changed the format to single game knockouts and how, you're going to get drama. Yeah, it's going to be interesting and fun for the neutral, but it's also not necessarily going to mean the best team goes through. You knock it down from 180 to 90 in terms of minutes played, you invite more chaos. And you're seeing it. And teams will approach these games differently. If you are the lesser team, you're going to come in, you're going to defend first, you're going to sit back, you're going to look for your opportunities, you're going to try to extend it to extra time and even penalties. That's the smart play. Over 180, can you sit and bunker for 180 minutes? It's a little harder to do. Some teams will still try it. Everybody's loving this, and I think it's fun for now. I do think the Europa League might want to consider it as just something to differentiate themselves from the Champions League. Long term, I want to see the two legs. I want to see the best teams go through, and that's what this competition is supposed to be. You're not putting an asterisk by this, any of that, because this year's crazy enough as it is. But, it's in general. Inter yesterday was the exception to this because they were the better team and they dominated like the better team. But in general, you're creating more opportunities for the underdog here that don't necessarily get you to the best champion. And it depends on what your goal is. If your goal is to have a compelling TV product, well, you're going to have less games this way, so you're going to have to deal with that part of it. But, this is going to keep you glued to the set. Do you want more games, and do you want the best team to win, or do you want chaos that will keep people tuning in because it's chaos? Going to have to make that decision if you're UEFA.
Adam Crafton at the Athletic said that there were conversations behind closed doors about keeping the one-off format in the later rounds of the Europa League and possibly Champions League, and obviously the teams that are the ones causing the upsets are the ones who are fans of this, the ones who are your stalwarts that are making their way traditionally to the end of the competition are the ones who are like, not so fast. And the discussion is coming down to what you were talking about, the dollars, because you're having less matches and you're having that is one of your, there's not as much revenue if you don't have as many matches. And so that's one of the big stumbling blocks that they're trying to get over. I like the idea of the one-off in the short term, but I think long term we're going to head back to where we were.
I don't think financially you can do the two leg or do the one-off like this in a neutral site, because you do two legs, each team gets a home game. That's revenue. That's another product to have on TV. More advertising can be sold. It just makes more sense to do it that way long term. I think they'll go back to it. As a short-term fix, it's a pretty creative short-term fix, and it creates a very unique competition. And I think you're going to have, at least on the Champions League side, I think you have a chance to have a unique kind of winner here. You have two heavyweights and two underdogs in the semifinals that start today. On paper, it should be a no-brainer that it is PSG and Bayern in the final. That's what, you look at the quality of the squads, you look at these two clubs, that's what it should be. But are you willing to put your juice boxes on that final? I am. I think they're going to do it. I think they're going to get through, but I don't feel great about it because of what we've seen so far in these Champions League knockouts. Yeah,
and we have been discussing over the last couple of shows, whether it's soccer over there last night, yesterday on SDH, the juice box numbers have compressed for Paris, for PSG and Leipzig.
Figured they would.
It's a little bit, but not a lot. PSG right now, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal, and remember what our friends at Odds Portal do is they have about 12 different. It's almost like the Dow Jones, where they have 12 different bet services, list them all, then take a composite. PSG was in the 130s, the minus 130s. They're now in the minus 120 on the average at minus 123. RB Leipzig is plus 315. And to be square after 90 minutes is plus 313 in the aggregate.
That's come down a little bit, right?
Yeah, it's come down from like 132 to 135 down to 123. And so it's adjusted about 10%.
Here's a couple things about this one. This is the first time these two teams have ever played in a competitive match. You have the managers who know each other very well, and Julian Nagelsmann, who worked under Thomas Tuchel for a little while. Tuchel's going to know exactly the style of play of Nagelsmann. I don't think he's going to catch anybody by surprise in this one. Neither team's been to a Champions Cup or European Cup or Champions League final. Neither team's been there yet, so this is going to have a new finalist in this year. PSG has never lost to a German opponent in European knockout play. That's an interesting one. And this is the one to keep an eye on. PSG have scored in each of their last 33 Champions League games. That's only one behind the all-time record, Real Madrid, between 2011 and 2014. The last team to keep PSG off the board in a Champions League match was Manchester City in April of 2016. So, PSG, I mean, look at the firepower this team has. Like, are you going to bet on them not finding a goal in this game? No, not with that attack, and not with what it's sounding like out of French media last night. Mbappe to start, Angel Di Maria to start, Verratti available off the bench. PSG comes in as the favorite. I think they have the kind of team to deal with RB Leipzig. They have the speed up top to go vertical and not get caught up getting pressed. I'll be curious to see what tweaks we get out of RB Leipzig, because I don't think they can win in their only way that they've been playing so far. I think they're going to have to show something a little different, because PSG will have some variances for them. How does RB Leipzig handle that? I just don't think they quite have enough talent to do it. And I think they give it a good effort here, but PSG wins in like a 2-1, 3-1 kind of situation is where my head's at.
Yeah, I wasn't going to go with the Velvet driving slipper lock of the week. I thought it was going to be a little more wider margin than that. I was thinking in the 3-1 range, and I figured, who is it this morning?
It's just a coconut Red Bull. Relax. It's not a who. It's a drink, John.
Then what are you? There you go. Then what? I'll change my pronoun.
I'm not drinking a person, John. That's gross.
No. Yeah, it is. But no, I figured that if you're starting Mbappe, we saw what he meant in the last 30 minutes last time out. And I just think that PSG's firepower is too much for Leipzig. I really do.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be able to find a way through it. A little bit of news from South America because it's being talked about on TIC this morning, and I had found some info on it last night. A player who's been linked to MLS before and is linked with a move away from River Plate right now, and Juan Fernando Quintero. There is a club in China who is coming after him, Shenzhen, who has just hired Jordi Cruyff. They fired Roberto Donadoni recently. There's a back and forth in the Argentine media, as there always is with anything, about what the actual offer situation is. So Quintero's people are saying that it is an offer for $11 million. That's the transfer fee to go play in China. River's saying if we were offered $11 million, we would have already accepted it and we would not be having this conversation. They're saying it hasn't come in at that. This morning on TIC, they're talking around $9 million. MLS has chased Juan Fernando Quintero before. Chicago came pretty close to signing him. Other teams have been linked to him. $9 to $11 million is not an unheard of transfer fee for Major League Soccer. We've seen that paid multiple times. Now, some of the clubs that maybe would have been in for Juan Fernando Quintero in the past might not have a spot for him at the moment. There's some clubs that I think he would be a great fit at because of the manager or whatever, but there's just not a spot for him to play. Miami, for example, would be one that Miami's linked to everybody, but they have Rodolfo Pizarro. Orlando would be one that I think would make a ton of sense with Oscar Pereja there, but you have Mauricio Pereira. You know, Atlanta, you have Pity Martinez. You have Ezequiel Barco who can play in those roles. Chicago's a team, if they really wanted to spend here and it could open up some money to do it, that would be a team to do it. But $9 to $11 million, when I heard those numbers, I'm like, wait a minute. MLS has chased him before. If that's the range, why isn't anybody going for this? Because that's affordable, and I think he's worth that. And I don't know, maybe I'm biased, but I think it would be better for him and his career to come play in Major League Soccer than to go play in the Chinese Super League.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, since he is out there, who could use him, and you went through that. So, I think that, to me, I was about to use the word no-brainer, considering that you've chased him in the past, and to have just that $9 to $11 million, let's just say a $10 million fee. I mean, I think that there are teams that ought to be able to budget that and chase after him and bring him in. If I could get my upper plate to work this morning,
I'm gonna put that on a T-shirt for you because you say that every show.
Well, it's true.
I've never heard anybody ever talk about their upper plate before I met you.
Seriously?
No, I've never heard that. Never heard it. Never ever.
Oh, okay. Well, there are those of us who hopefully will never have dentures, but have the problems with their, things slipping up top.
Their upper plate. Well, we got this first before your upper plate slips again.
I was going to say, let's see if you have what I have.
I'm sure. Rose Lavelle has signed with Manchester City. We're not having it's not that much breaking news at the moment, John. Settle down. Rose Lavelle has signed with Manchester City. Let's see what they have to say about this. They're delighted, of course. I mean, I would be delighted too. Yes. Rose is so excited to join Manchester City. Can't wait to play alongside some really talented players. Looking forward to the opportunity of playing in England and competing in the Champions League. Excited about how she sees herself fitting in after talking to Gareth Taylor, the manager. I've heard amazing things about the club, and it just felt like a really good fit overall. I want to challenge myself and feel that Manchester City is the perfect environment to do so, and hopefully I'll find some success along the way. Now remember, OL Reign has gotten her rights in the NWSL. When or if she returns to the NWSL, she would go to OL Reign, not to the Washington Spirit. This is a transfer. This isn't a loan, so there's no telling when that could be. Manchester City is a club that has spent pretty heavily on their women's side. This is a club that's trying to grow their American presence to get in my opinion, and I think this might be a controversial one, I think Rose Lavelle's the best player in the United States, and to get her in your kit with your team is going to make Manchester City's women's side far more relevant in the United States right now. It's a very smart move. You already have Sam Mewis there as well. Manchester City is going to become the favorite club of a lot of American women's soccer fans because of these moves.
Gareth Taylor quoted, "We're thrilled to have secured Rose's services. With her impressive back catalog, she's an incredibly exciting player, one we're all looking forward to working with. Her endless accolades for both club and country are proof of what a talent she is, and she's exactly the kind of player we want here at City, with her ambitions and desire for success matching our own." And the release continues with more quotes from there.
They're very happy. Everybody's happy. Washington
Yes.
Spirit got something out of the deal in making their trade. They got some allocation money. OL Reign is kind of waiting to see with their lottery ticket if and when she comes back. This is going to be a big move in the women's game. Now, there was also news last night that Emily Sonnet was linked with a move to Europe. And if you remember, now maybe things have changed, but the CBA between the U.S. Women, the U.S. Women's National Team Players Association, U.S. Soccer, 3 U.S. players who were being paid or were part of the national team, and this is where it's really ambiguous, and I don't know exactly how this will go. It was supposed to be a limit of 3 national team players who play overseas in 2021. Well, that's 3. Mewis, Lavelle, and Sonnet. That's it. Anybody else who would have been considering a move, I don't know if they're able to do that as part of the national team. That whole thing's craziness. Like that needs to go away. It needs to stop. And I understand some of the issues with you're trying to get more money into the women's game. You're trying to make sure these national team players can focus on their jobs as women's professional soccer players. But you can't create a system like this. It doesn't work. It doesn't work for the good of the national team. It doesn't work for the good of the NWSL. It doesn't work. Model it after the men's game. If the federation wants to find a way to better secure the financial, the income, whatever of their national team players, give a supplement to the NWSL clubs, and then they pay it. Like, don't have these separate contract deals where it gets into these situations. It doesn't make any sense, and it gets all this stuff really complicated. As complicated as MLS rules are, this is stuff like I don't know if another women's national team player could go overseas if they wanted to.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're able to. I don't know if they're eligible to. I don't know. Did the federation get a transfer fee for Rose Lavelle? I mean, we know Washington Spirit didn't get anything. We know they didn't have any say.
Yeah.
But did the federation get a transfer fee? Or was she just allowed to go sign just to go sign? Then if that's the case, then it's a brilliant move from Manchester City.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a model. The way the game and the transfer system and all that works around the world, it works. People understand it. Why are we recreating the wheel here and making it more complicated? And on the women's game especially, where one of the number one issues on the women's game is access to information and knowing what's going on here. Maybe it's just me, but when I get hooked on a team or on a league or on a sport, and I want to go all in and learn more about it. I want to know how it works. So the NWSL Challenge Cup, for example, loved it, loved the competition. Did not love when you started to see, and Rose Lavelle was one, and at the time we didn't know about an injury that she was suffering. But you started to see national team players play 30 minutes here, play only 60 minutes here, get pulled out from situations that don't make any sense. And it's like, well, why? Oh, well, the national team had say over how many minutes were played. Well, that diminishes the competition to me. Like that, I'm not as interested now because it's not a true competition because you're limiting the best players' minutes. That doesn't make any sense. I want to know what NWSL clubs can do on the business side. They need to bring in revenue. They need to bring in money. And the Washington Spirit can't transfer their best player because she's not really their player. Why are we playing it like this? I understand in the past how you had to you had to pay salaries for the U.S. women so they didn't have to work other jobs. Okay. You have a league now. Supplement the league if you want to do that and allow it to operate as a normal league where they can go out and get these transfer fees. They can go out and do these things. Or just pay more per game instead of doing the salary side of it on the women. I don't think, and I'm not up on my labor law, so correct me here, I would assume that the Federation could still provide the benefits that they have chosen to provide for the women in terms of health care, all those kinds of things, that they could still do that and not have their players on salary. I don't know for sure. Maybe there's some way around that. I don't know. You can make all of that work to get where you want to get, but you have to do it in this normal system that people understand in the way this works. Because otherwise, if you are a top club like a Manchester City, if you're Real Madrid wanting to invest in your women's team, I'd be going to sign every U.S. women's national team player I could possibly find because I'm not paying a transfer fee.
Yep.
None of the, we don't know any of this stuff. We don't know what's going on. It's so complicated. It takes you out of, when it gets complicated like that, it takes you out of caring and paying deep attention to it. That's not good for a league and a game that needs more information out there to get people to pay attention. Access to information is the number one thing that holds back women's professional sports. We have all of it for the most part on the men. Talk about with MLS. They need more access to information in terms of salary cap and how these things work. That would help get people more interested. But you got a lot to work with there. NWSL, you have nothing. The way this stuff works, we don't know really much of anything about it. So why get invested in it? Why get emotionally invested in it? Why would you be looking if you're a Washington Spirit fan at, okay, well, they sold Rose Lavelle. Now who can they go get? What kind of room do they have? What does that allocation money mean? There's no conversation about that because nobody understands it. That doesn't help grow anything. That's got to change. It's got to change. And the Federation, the Women's National Team Players Association, the NWSL all have to get on the same page because far too often it feels like the NWSL is in the way of the national team program when it should not be that. It should be elevating the national team program, supplementing it, developing players for it. It feels like it's the national team, it's the Federation, and the NWSL just gets in the way sometimes, and it should not be that way.
And if you're looking for a league that you supposedly hold in such high regard, if you want it to grow, then why not have it be like all the other leagues around the world where you can get transfer fees, you can get any kind of added revenue, you get a piece of the action. If it goes through the Federation, since they were on your roster, do you get a piece of the action? Something like that. Even if it's not a full transfer fee, you get a piece of it. Just somewhere in there if you're looking for it to grow, because I think you said it really well. It's like it seems that the NWSL is in the way of what's going on, where the Federation sitting there saying, okay, it's our player. And yes, I just used air quotes for those watching on Twitch. It's like, okay, it's our player. We're going to decide what happens. And then, tough on you if we decide that player is going to go to Manchester City. You don't get any value out of it. And then why should I be invested if the player gets to go and there's no, thanks for coming by and thanks for helping us out. And here's something where you can invest and bring in other players. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. And it's frustrating when you want to see a league grow because of, in the recent sense, with what we saw with the Challenge Cup. You want the league to grow. You're seeing cities that are interested in expansion teams. You're seeing Louisville come in. You're seeing Los Angeles come in. But if you can't either keep players or bring players in if you lose some of your national team players to the international theater, then, what I don't want to say what's the use, but what's the use,
Yeah, I'm looking back at the press release to see if they say anything like you normally see in these things about a transfer or anything like that. No. So, I mean, I don't know how this goes. I don't know how this works. It would really be helpful, I think, if they did that and told us and explained it, because it would help this conversation that the NWSL really needs. Because as great as the Challenge Cup was, with all of this possible movement, with players being linked to loans, players being linked to moves, the chatter completely dropped off when the game stopped for the NWSL. And as we've seen in other leagues, the NFL draft has become an industry unto itself. NBA free agency and the NBA draft is its own thing. So lots of different elements that are needed here to grow the NWSL. I think the biggest one is information. I really think information would change the game and give us a lot more to discuss, like what's going on with Miami, because there's a lot of stuff to discuss with Miami outside of the games right now. They're linked to every single player in the world. It's true. Every player has been linked to Miami at some point. It has happened. Right. Jefferson Farfan is the latest one. 35-year-old Peruvian, can play on the right side, can play up top. Last with Lokomotiv Moscow, he's out of contract. Only 51 games over the last 4 years. That's concerning if you're Miami. If that's the number 9 you're going to get, one, he has normally played out wide, but he can play as a number 9. He has played as a number 9. Injury history is substantial, and that's concerning for him. So I don't know about that one. That could just be another one of those names that's linked to Miami for no reason. Blaise Matuidi's not linked. He's signed now. He's not expected to be available for Saturday night at home against Orlando City, according to Michelle Kaufman of the Miami Herald. But the way that's worded, I'm assuming that his visa is being finalized. He's got to go through the MLS COVID protocols. That's a few days. Atlanta United plays Miami, a week from tomorrow. Could he be available for that? It sounds unlikely, but it doesn't sound like it is ruled out as of yet. I'm assuming he might not be available for these 6 games. If he is, it might be the last couple. But he's going to be there shortly. Robbie Robinson has rejoined the team. He had left the team during the Orlando tournament, left the bubble, couldn't come back. He's training. He left in early July to deal with a personal matter. He's back in the fold, so you have that option up top. He had started earlier in the season. And Miami confirmed on Monday that home matches will be played without fans in the stands for the foreseeable future. They didn't put a date on it. Atlanta put a date on it. Into September, no fans for Falcons or for Atlanta United in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. After the end of September, it's up for discussion. It will be decided upon then. But right now, Miami is just no fans for the foreseeable future. We've not heard an update on Orlando yet. We've not heard an update on Nashville yet in this group of games.
Early numbers, and obviously we'll keep an eye on the numbers as they go throughout the week. Inter Miami listed at plus 131. Going up against Orlando City. Orlando City a plus 186 right now.
What?
Uh-huh. Thought you'd enjoy that one.
Who did that number?
This is the odds portal.
So it's not even just one person who did that number.
Yeah, it's a composite. So
a whole composite of people are intoxicated making up numbers, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, pretty much. And it gets better. That usually when I go with the odds portal, that's a composite. The numbers range from, in their group of 12, or their group of 10, from plus 179 to plus 200 at Bet365. Plus
Bet365, go put money on Orlando. That's insanity. Did you watch Orlando and Miami play in the MLS's back tournament?
Apparently not.
ATL Leone says, do they think Matuidi's playing? Matuidi's not going to change everything. I mean, come on, man. Leandro Gonzalez-Pirez is not going to change everything. That's crazy.
Inter Miami, and sticking with Bet365 for a second. Bet365 has Inter Miami at plus 125 and Orlando City at plus 200. Their draw option is plus 250. And that's not even the highest number on the board.
Orlando. I love you, Orlando.
Bet365, you've made me defend Orlando City, and it gives me heartburn, and I don't feel good about it. But that's absurd. Oscar Pereja should be furious and should be storming your doors right now.
Well, that's your wallpaper right there.
Oh, easy. That's ridiculous.
And obviously, like I said, we'll keep an eye on that one. The one match tonight, Toronto and Vancouver. Toronto is minus 286 to win in 90 minutes. Vancouver is a plus 674, and your draw option is plus 432.
No, I have no faith in Vancouver. Sorry.
No.
I have no faith in Vancouver to get that one done. It's tempting because it's a big number and crazy things happen in this league.
Yeah.
But that's a little much. Okay, let's get caught up on a couple other things around MLS. Since we're in a match week, it's almost like another season preview. I mean, I feel like this is the third time around of previewing the season. We kind of have to because of the stop-starts.
Yeah.
So the latest on the transfer side of things. So you've seen some young players join the league, sign with the league. Mohamed Traore has joined LAFC. Got him in the waiver order. He was with Senegal's U17s. He had been at Montverde Academy in Orlando. John Thorrington said very nice things about him. He just signed him, so we kind of expect that. He is a center back who's 18. They need somebody to play instead of Dejan Jakovic, I think, in the long term. I don't know if an 18-year-old is necessarily the solution, but maybe he can be part of it. We shall see. Philadelphia keeps signing homegrowns. Jack McGlynn is the latest one. 14th homegrown signing for the club since they came into the league in 2010. He'll be effective next year. It's like Efrain Morales. 17-year-old midfielder. They had signed Brendan Aronson's younger brother as well recently. Philadelphia continues down that road of developing the next generation. I'm still waiting to see Brendan Aronson, Mark McKenzie. Are they going to be in Philadelphia much longer? Yeah, the rumors are still strong on them going to Europe. I haven't seen anything too definitive just yet, but that's what we're hearing, and that's what it's looking like. And you've got people coming through that I think you can make it work. The center back one, McKenzie's maybe a little bit more of the question. I think as much as Brendan Aronson looked great in the tournament, you've got pieces that can work there. You've got Anthony Fontana, who's a very promising young player. Maybe doesn't directly replace Aronson. Maybe you shift your diamond around a little bit. Fontana drops into one of the 8 roles, one of the shuttling roles in the diamond, and Montero goes up as the number 10. Montero's played some number 10 for them last year, so that could work. You can handle that one. You've got pieces to move around there. Center back, losing McKenzie would be tough because you already lost Austin Trusty last year, so you don't really have a ready-made young player to come in and step in unless they're really promising, really happy with one of their young players that we just haven't seen much of. So Philadelphia, 14 homegrown signings. That's pretty impressive, and you continue to keep getting at a higher level, I think. Nashville added another goalkeeper, U.S. Youth International, Brady Scott. He was at the last two U20 World Cups. That's pretty rare. You don't see many players make the pool back-to-back U20 World Cups because you got to be like 17 the first time around to get into that team. He will be available, it appears, unless the international transfer certificate doesn't come in. He'll be available for Saturday against Atlanta. He's not going to be the number 1 anytime soon. Joe Willis has done very well for Nashville, but I don't think you make this kind of move if you're not expecting him to be your number 1 in the next 18 months. I could see him being the guy by the end of next year. Houston has added Ariel Lasseter. You'll remember him from the LA Galaxy. You'll probably remember his dad, Roy Lasseter, for the U.S. men's national team. He has come in on loan from Alajuelense in Costa Rica. Didn't do anything with the Galaxy. Only played 500 minutes. He has scored 21 goals for Alajuelense over their 2 seasons, over their Apertura Clausura. sometimes changing scenery is just something that unlocks it for a goal scorer. He's done really well, and you're not asking him to come in and be a number one guy straight away because you have Mauro Manotas, you have Christian Ramirez, but Manotas has been linked to moves. Maybe this is a precursor to something going down with Manotas, maybe even Albert Ellis, who's been linked to moves, because Lasseter could play out wide in a 4-3-3 as well. We had talked about Cincinnati and a couple moves that we were expecting. One of them was announced before the show ended yesterday. The other one came out in the afternoon. And this one makes a lot of sense for me on both sides. Fatai Alashe, who Cincinnati brought in. It never worked out for them. A good young number 6 who has just hit a wall in his development goes to Columbus Crew. Columbus needed a player like Alashe in the worst way because they had very little depth in the holding midfield. Nagbe, Artur, then 2 homegrowns that you've just added in Aiden Morris and Sebastian Berhalter, that you're asking them to do a lot. Now you've got a guy in Alashe who doesn't have a ton of minutes, but he's got a lot more experience than Berhalter and Aiden Morris. So that's going to help them a lot. Cincinnati had already traded Kekuta Mane. They got an international slot there from the Revs. Cincinnati's got some pieces to work with now. They've got the number 1 spot in the allocation order as well, and they've been shopping that. Keep an eye on what Cincinnati does here, because this is a team that, look, Stam went into the tournament and said, I can't play with anybody right now because Jurgen Lakadia is injured. Siem de Jong is still coming into the mix. I don't have enough talent. You've moved 2 pieces off. You've added resources. You're potentially going to add a good bit of resources for that allocation spot. What are the moves that Cincinnati's looking at? I'm intrigued by what Cincinnati's doing. They feel like a real team now.
Yeah.
They feel like they're really starting to put things together.
Yeah, and when you see these pieces, you're kind of sitting there and you're like, okay, so what are you thinking here? So now I want to see what you're thinking. So go ahead and tell me what you're thinking, FC Cincinnati.
Well, no, they're going to do things first. They're not going to tell you what they're thinking. They're going to do it
Come
first.
on. Well, then tell me what you're doing before everybody else.
They got to know. Yeah, they got to get it done first. It's not quite that easy when you're dealing with the transfer market. They don't want to tip their hand. The LA Galaxy, we didn't talk about this yesterday. They added a winger from Colombia, Yoni Gonzalez. He is loan with a purchase option from Benfica. Never played for Benfica. He'd spent the season on loan with Corinthians. He had started with Fluminense. Had success, went to Benfica, didn't play. This happens sometimes. South American players go to Europe. They don't find the right fit. They go to the wrong club. Managerial changes. Things happen. So he's on loan with the purchase option back to the LA Galaxy. They added another winger, another attacker. That's great. That's nice. Your defense is still terrible.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Your defense is still awful.
Ricky Ricardo is helping us out here. Send a link from Ben Wright from Broadway Sports Media. Nashville Mayor John Cooper spoke at his daily briefing about allowing fans to attend last week, about fans attending the Nashville match against Inter Miami on August 30th. Mm-hmm. Quoting Cooper, we have to be certain that crowds or gatherings, even outside, are in compliance with public health orders. Let's get a grip on people wearing masks and behaving in all public areas. It also has to be done with the consultation of all the businesses in the area, and it continues from there.
It's not confirmed yet. That's the thing is,
right.
Yes, they've talked about it. I did a little bit of digging yesterday on kind of where things stand right now, and he said that. He talked about it. He is also dealing with a pretty big political football, if you will, in the bars on Broadway and the bar scene in Nashville that has been shut down again. Because of coronavirus spread. And if he allows whatever attendance he allows at Nissan Stadium for Nashville SC, but he doesn't allow the bars to open, people are going to lose their minds.
Yes.
And it's going to get ugly. So I don't think he's going to be able to pull that one off. He's saying the right things about he'd like to. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. When the bars reopen is when I think you'll be able to have people in the stands at Nissan. And I don't know when that's going to be.
Yeah. Currently, it would not be allowed under our metrics. We cannot engage in the magical thinking that we will have a better virus condition in the weeks ahead, though, of course, we hope we do, end quote.
That's not the issue. I mean, it is the issue. It's not the issue. The issue is he made the very bold move to shut down the bars, which remember the first time that happened, and people were going out and taking pictures at Kid Rock's place and I can't remember all the different bars in downtown Nashville, and people were fired up about it, fighting, oh, you're not going to shut us down, blah, blah, blah. Well, they should have done it sooner. They eventually did. Then they reopened, and things have gotten bad again, so now you're shutting it down again. You're not going to pick the fight with people to allow the soccer team to have people in the stands. You're just not going to do it. Maybe when you get to the point, because I haven't heard anything about the Tennessee Titans yet, what that looks like for their games, maybe things change because the Titans have a little bit different kind of conversation about all of this than Nashville SC. That I don't know, but I just don't see it until the bars are open.
Right.
I don't think you can afford to fight that political battle.
Nope. And I'll see if anything has happened during the course of the show, if the Titans have said anything recently about what's going on about going back into Nissan. But no, I haven't seen anything with the Titans currently either.
Another bit of news yesterday on the MLS front. St. Louis City SC has hired their sporting director, Lutz Pfannenstiel, I think.
Pfannenstiel?
I think that's close, yes. 47 years old. He has been a really interesting guy. He spent the last 2 seasons as a sporting director at Fortuna Dusseldorf. They won promotion to the Bundesliga in 2018. They were relegated in 2020. He had worked as a scout and head of international relations for Hoffenheim starting in 2011. Hoffenheim was, if you're not real familiar with their story, they were a tiny, tiny, tiny little club until Dietmar Hopp came in, put money into it. They have grown into a Bundesliga club. They've been in the Champions League. That's where Julian Nagelsmann got his start. Very progressive kind of club. Pfannenstiel, as a goalkeeper, played for 25 different teams in 13 countries over 21 seasons.
Wow.
He is, I believe, the only player to have played in all 6 continental membership associations. So CONCACAF, CONMEBOL, UEFA, CAF, AFC for Asia, and Oceania. He played in Canada with the Calgary Mustangs and the Vancouver Whitecaps in USL League One, or USL First Division. I think it was back in 2001, 2002, 2003, that time frame. A lot of people are really excited about this move after what he's done at Dusseldorf, what he did at Hoffenheim, coming into St. Louis, and he's got a lot of time to build. Rangnick got Hoffenheim promoted. Yes, Bernd, for sure. I didn't mean to insinuate anything different. I was just talking in general about Hoffenheim coming out of nowhere, and Nagelsmann was there later and then moved. Hoffenheim's been a club that I've followed not super closely, but maybe a little more closely because they've done a few things here in this region. They had a player ID camp. Oh, man, it was over in Decatur, Alabama. I want to say 2008, 2009. And they invited a couple players from Atlanta FC or NPSL team, a couple Soccer in the Streets kids as well, got to go and participate in that. They were great to all of us there. Their academy has looked at doing some different things in the U.S. and looked at doing some different things in the Southeast specifically. It's been just financial commitments. It probably would have happened ahead of the Champions League campaign, but that kind of pulled everybody's interest over there. Also, with Nagelsmann, if I remember right, he had already announced that, and it was already announced that he was leaving at the end of that season. So it got all kinds of complicated, and I'm curious to see if anything comes of that. They're a pretty fascinating club, and I'd like to go back now and dig into Pfannenstiel's time there and what his impact was. I think most people are looking at what he's done with Dusseldorf in the last 2 years. To go to St. Louis, and I know Bernd had mentioned he was really excited about this hire and thought it was a really strong hire for St. Louis, and I'm sure, as I'm kind of asking Bernd to do this, I'm sure he will give us a couple more bits of information since he is our Bundesliga correspondent in the Twitch pitch. Adam from 816 is actually fairly accurate with this. Dude's going to need 2 years to learn the MLS rules, which is kind of true. Yeah. I think he's a quick study, so maybe a year, maybe just a year. But he's got plenty of time. They're not going to start until 2023. Now, what he's going to be able to do, and I think what's interesting to keep an eye on with St. Louis, he's going to be able to get an academy underway, really whenever he wants to start that, and I would assume probably for next year, but you can start to do some activities this year. He's going to be able to look at maybe potentially a reserve team, maybe St. Louis FC continues in some form or fashion. That's going to take money to make that happen. He's going to have the opportunity to do some things between now and then. And this is where at times, and I think we've seen some clubs with a long lead up not take advantage of all that time. It's almost like you keep putting it off. Yeah. You've seen others take full advantage of that. I think Atlanta United's a prime example. It's a lot of time, but it's not a lot of time. Because you could look at it and say, well, we're not really going to be able to do anything until 2022, so okay, yeah, we're just going to hang out and do these things. You can lay a lot of groundwork in this period of time, and I'm very curious to see what St. Louis does with this amount of time to get ready for it. They'll be moving into their new stadium when that time comes. It'll be open, ready to go. What does St. Louis look like to hire a sporting director in August of 2020 when your first game is going to be March of 23? Is an aggressive move, and we'll see how it pays off for him.
Yeah, but I mean, I look at it one of two ways. It's either being proactive or reactive, and I think that when you have owners who are building their stadium, and you don't want to go into a new stadium and sit there and it's like, okay, hi, we're here, and then just plop something down and then build from that moment. You want to be able to hit the ground as hard as possible the second that building is open, the second you're playing games that mean something. So there's all this room for buildup that you can have leading into that moment. You don't want to get to that moment and then start going forward, because then it's going to be a tough slog against everybody else in the league. You have all of this other stuff that you can do to help build your team. And I'm not just saying that from an MLS sense, but you're talking about community and academy and all the young players that you can have as a part of this. That's what, to me, all of this time should be about. By the time you get to MLS, you have all of this infrastructure in place, all these different players that you can have, all these different ideas that you can have that have already started to germinate. And then when you're in MLS, match one, new stadium, you've already had this build-up instead of, okay, yeah, it's like, okay, our stadium will be open in 2023, and then hit the ground. I think, to me, that's two separate approaches, and I think that take advantage of the long runway that you've got.
Jason Nix has the question that I have about this. I don't know if you saw the video announcing him, the car that they're using in all their promos. Does dude get to drive this?
Probably.
Go look at the car. It's not just your average car. It's not a minivan that they wrapped with St. Louis City SC. No, it's not. It's not your average Enterprise rental on there. It's a pretty cool ride. I don't think he gets to drive that as a daily driver. Maybe for special events. Maybe he gets to pull that out of the car park for special events. I'll be curious. Abby says it reminds her of the Batmobile. I'll be curious to see if Enterprise does more with St. Louis, with maybe cars being wrapped and things like that. It could be kind of cool if they do it. John's trying to find the car video. I can see the look on his face.
I'm looking at the images of Pfannenstiel in front of the Audi.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a pretty stylish-looking Audi.
Yes, it's a nice car. I don't think he gets to drive it on the daily. Bernd says, from what I know, Pfannenstiel is very progressive. He clashed with Fortuna's board, which is very conservative. I think he's data-driven, will sign mostly young players, and probably build a fast-pressing team. It's a bit hard to tell because Dusseldorf spent so little money. And that's the question about St. Louis. I mean, this is an ownership group that is led by women, which is the first time that's happened in MLS. I believe it might be the first time it's happened from the jump in American sports. We've seen ownership change hands, but this might be the first time as an expansion team this is how it started. Again, the Enterprise family is involved in this, so you have a lot of money. But where is St. Louis going to fall in terms of the spending? Is it going to be Atlanta, Miami, LAFC, New York City kind of spending, or is it going to be different? My guess is they're not going to be Atlanta kind of spending. They're not going to be LA, Miami kind of spending. But I think they're going to spend maybe more than your Kansas Cities. Sorry, Adam from 816. more than your Minnesotas early on, especially. I think they're going to be in that upper middle tier. And from what I know, he would be a good fit for that because he'll be able to identify with a scouting background good value. It sounds like, and I think Byrne is dead on with this, from a style of play that he's going to want to play, it's not ultimately reliant on superstars. You're not going to go get a Blaise Matuidi. You're going to get younger players that you can mold, so you can spend less but get great output. I think that's the way they're going to go. But the question will be, can they take that and then add on top of it that special piece that fits what they want to do, but that special piece that can take them over the line? I want to see where they fall in terms of spending. That's the big question for me about St. Louis. Sacramento as well. Like, those two teams are the ones, they're the last ones coming in. We don't really know a ton about what their approach is going to be. Austin's being pretty aggressive. I expect Charlotte to be very aggressive in what they do in terms of signings and going out and getting big talent. St. Louis might be a step below them, maybe more like an Austin, who I don't think is going to be able to spend in the same way Atlanta and Miami is, even if they wanted to. It's a little bit different conversation getting somebody to go to Austin, Texas versus Miami, Florida.
Yeah.
No offense, Austin, Texas, but your average big player in Europe is probably going to pick Miami over Austin. That's just how it is. You have to understand that. I think St. Louis could be bigger than that. And maybe with certain countries and certain leagues could be more appealing than others. So I'm fascinated to see how this goes. But to make this signing, make this hire this early, it's bold. We'll see if it pays off.
A 2020 Audi R8, which was what that automobile was, manufactured suggested retail price $170,000.
I mean, maybe he negotiated it as part of his deal. I don't know, but that looks like a car that he's not driving to Quick Trip to go get a corn dog in. I think that's the one that he's driving for special events and when he wants to look fancy downtown. That's my guess. Yes.
20 miles an hour. It's horsepower, 562 to 611 horsepower, and can get you 20 on the highway, 13 in the city with a 5.2-liter V10 engine. So it ain't something that is got a station wagon engine in it. That's not just going to putter around town.
No, not at all. That is not going to just be going to the grocery store to get some milk kind of
Although
car.
I'd love to see Fondenstiel go to Quick Trip and get a corn dog with it.
Sure.
I think that'd be pretty funny.
Sure, why not? Okay, lots of different things kind of popping off all over the place. If you guys have Tuesday thoughts, please tweet them at us at Soccer Down Here. Email them to us, soccerdownhere@gmail. Throw them into the Twitch pitch. We've got a lot of different things all over the world to kind of touch on here. But before we do that, John's going to tell us about our good friend Steve Apolinsky right about now.
I could do that. Apolinsky and Associates, LLC, proud supporters of everything Soccer Down Here and the SDH networks. Recognizes top 100 in the state of Georgia. Georgia Trend Magazine Legal Elite for his work in wrongful death and serious injury matters for clients in Georgia and Alabama. A couple different ways that you can reach out to Apolinsky and Associates if this is a road, unfortunately, that you have to go down. Go to the website, aa-legal.com. You hit the enter button on your keyboard or however you access things on your favorite device. A pop-up window pops up because that's why they call them pop-up windows. You can have an instant conversation, 24/7, 365 with a representative, or 366 in leap years. Or you can shoot Steve an email, steve@aa-legal.com, or get a free consultation by giving them a buzz at 404-377-9191. Apolinsky and Associates, LLC, proud supporters of everything Soccer Down Here in the SDH network. The website is aa-legal.com.
All right, what do we have on the Twitters?
What do we have on Twitters? Let's go back to Turner Kirby, who sent something in very, very early this morning. It looks like Turner was up around 3 o'clock this morning when he sent this.
Turner, get some sleep, my friend.
Yeah, and it's about the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. And he has a question. He says, has the AJC had a sit-down with a certain reporter that happens to share a name with a certain city in Florida about downgrading a product that outlet has put a bunch of resources into covering.
Oh, man. I'm assuming not, because this guy was back on his thing yesterday for no reason, just completely out of nowhere, just, I guess, because the number of clicks or the engagement, maybe check the metrics before for the last month, and maybe they were low. So out of nowhere, there's a comment about no fans at Mercedes-Benz Stadium for the Falcons, or the minor league soccer team, is what this well-respected beat writer, well-respected in certain circles, beat writer for the Atlanta Falcons, longtime member of the Professional Football Writers Association, somebody who should be an adult at this point, is acting like seriously a middle school person. I mean, this is like school journalism, like not college journalism, like middle school, high school journalism. It doesn't make any sense. Like, it's just mind blowing that this is what's going on at this point. First off, you've got a lot of work to do right now covering your sport, because there's a lot of questions about it, as there are about every sport right now. You got plenty to work on. You don't really need to go down this road again when you looked foolish last time. People who... This has become a new thing in the sports media world, the people who are anti-soccer. The new thing, because it didn't work for decades, because they kept going back to that 1984 column that somebody fired off, or that they might have fired off themselves. In that case, probably a lot of them did that, about soccer's never going to happen. It was the sport of the 80s, and look, the NASL folded, and they just changed some words and would reprint it again in 1988, and then again in 92, and then again in 99. Oh, they did it in 96 when MLS started. Then they did it in 2010 when people were excited about the World Cup. Then they did it again a couple years ago. They've realized they can't do that anymore. They've realized that doesn't fly anymore. They can't use that column. So they had to come up with a new angle. The new angle, and I don't know, I'm not in their WhatsApp chat, so I don't know how they come up with these strategies. The new angle is, well, MLS is a minor league. It's not even dissing soccer. It's, well, the MLS, it's a minor league because it's not the biggest league in the world. So, which one's the minor league? Is it the Premier League because they don't have a team in the Champions League anymore? Are they a minor league? Are they below France? Is France the major league? Is the Bundesliga the major league? Well, La Liga, I mean, they're minor league. Look, their teams got beat. They're minor league. Minor league. Serie A, minor league. Minor league. Because there's only one major league according to this. MLS is minor league. It's a stupid argument. And it's an idiotic thing to do in a city that a lot of people are fans of all the teams in town. I feel like Atlanta is a city that has the greatest amount of crossover in sports fandom. Now, if you are a hardcore Falcons fan, are you following this transfer window in the way that we're talking about it? No, you're not. Signing gets announced. You hear about it. You read about it. You're excited or you're not excited. Cool. Just like you would be about the Hawks free agency, or just like you would be about the Braves. Vice versa. If you're a big Braves fan, you're not going to care as much about the Falcons draft coming up. You're going to pay attention. When the other teams in town are doing really well, you get excited. Falcons going to the Super Bowl, everybody was excited. Atlanta United going to MLS Cup, everybody was excited. Why, at a time when you are competing for clicks, tell a segment of people who would be clicking on your articles, I don't like you. I'm going to say things that anger you because I don't know why. Like, I really don't know the strategy. You're not boosting yourself in your football world because last time I checked, there's a bunch of NFL owners who own MLS teams because they don't think it's minor league. Just saying. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're not boosting yourself in your sports world because last time I checked, you're seeing more talk about Major League Soccer in American sports than ever before. I don't know what you're doing. Like, I don't even know the strategy at this point. So I feel very bad for somebody who thinks this is the approach, because he is hurting his career with this nonsense. Football fans who would read his work, who are soccer fans as well, and there are quite a few of them, are not going to read his work because they're angry about it. I don't click his articles anymore because I'm not going to read somebody who is insulting to what I do. I don't work for a minor soccer league. I don't call a minor league soccer games. I don't talk about a minor soccer league. I talk about Major League Soccer. Not because it's Major League in the name. I talk about it because it is the biggest league in the United States. I care about it. I won't click on his articles because I'm not going to give him that click. Made that decision a long time ago. He's going to lose his career standing by going down this road that is gaining him nothing. It's very sad. And it's very self-destructive. And somebody should tell him to stop for his own career's sake. Because he has been a football writer for a long time. Mm-hmm. And the world is a little different now. He would never go down this road about baseball or basketball. He is hurting his own standing, and it's very sad to watch somebody do this and be so self-destructive.
I'd love to know, and I don't know if he would ever be in a position to tell folks, what's your beef? It's like, why do you feel compelled to say what you're saying about this particular sport? I'd love to know the rationale behind it. Where did it start? Is it just because they're another tenant in a building that you've covered things in, and it's like, oh, you're the new guy, you're not important, you're the little guy, you're soccer, you're over here. It's just, I'd love to know the genesis of where all of this started and why he feels compelled to continue to go down this road when all you're doing is hurting your own credibility as a journalist / op-ed writer when the situation warrants. Across the board. If you're going to say what you're going to say about this sport, then why should I take you seriously about other things if you're going to say what you're saying about a sport that means a lot to folks not just in the city of Atlanta, but in the Southeast, and they're attached to this particular team? Why did you want to go down this road in the first place, unless you think that, like you were saying before, it's like we're in middle school or something, and you say something because the new kid comes in to high school and he's in your world history class, and he has the T-shirt that looks a couple years old, and he's got the blue jeans that don't fit just right, and his tennis shoes might be a little worn down, and you're one of the kids that's been in this high school, and you're part of the accepted clique or whatever. Why do you want to run that game? And why do you want to consistently run that game? What's your beef? Where did it start? And why do you continue to go down this road when it's proven that folks are invested in what you're saying all these negative things on? I don't get it. I didn't get it when it started. I don't get it as it continues. It's disappointing. And you would think that 70,000 people aren't wrong on a consistent basis. You would think that the top 10 capacity numbers for Major League Soccer, the top 10 attendance figures for Major League Soccer in the history of the league aren't wrong. Yet you continue to go down this road like you're the cool kid looking at the kid at PE class like you're the high school quarterback or something, and the cool kid and the other kids aren't hanging out with you. And so it's just, I don't get it. And it's just one of the things that if I had a question mark bubble over my head, it would continually be there when it comes to this particular tack. It's not something that I understand.
Yeah, Jensen with a good point, and this is why I haven't tweeted about it. I sent one tweet back to him when this first started, basically saying, you're better than this. Why are you acting like this? Jensen says he's a petulant child. His words have power. When you talk about them, ignore him, which is true. And Alex Pacine brings up a very important part. We talk about it occasionally, Jensen, because it's brought to us. And I get stuck in a really weird spot with this, and I'll explain it quickly. I've been told that I'm not doing my job in defending soccer if I don't speak on it. I'm generally of your mind that ignore it, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
You can speak on it and leave it, and that's where I try to be. I'm not going to wage a Twitter campaign against this because it's pointless. It's not worth my time. I got far more important things to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, talking to you guys about this in this format, absolutely. I think people are fired up about it. They want to hear about it. And Alex Bassine is a good point. And this is an element that also has to be considered in this bigger conversation, not about this one person. I think it's less about soccer and more about the soccer keyboard warriors who can't let it go. He should know better, but he is snapping back. How many people crapped on the Falcons and made comparisons in his mentions before he made those initial comments? That I don't know. And initially, sure, to fire back a response, I get it. He's went past that for me, and that's why it frustrates me, is that now it's not responding to people. He's trying to, start fights, which is stupid. Yeah. It's just a stupid approach on Twitter, but I guess some people think that's the way you tweet. I don't. So what Bassine's saying, though, and it's an important element that soccer people do have to understand, because soccer people can be very bad about this as well. Atlanta is really unique, and I think it shows you the route for growth of American soccer, and people don't talk about it enough in this way. Soccer people in the soccer bubble, they're there, they've always been there, they're not going to stop watching soccer. Are they going to maybe pick different leagues to watch? Are they not going to watch as much MLS if they don't like MLS? Have they never given MLS a chance? Do they not give Liga MX a chance? All that happens within the soccer bubble. But the soccer bubble at times is very antagonistic towards other sports. I have never been a fan of soccer people going around and calling American football throw ball or egg ball or whatever.
Right.
That's childish as well. That doesn't help the perception of soccer. I've had this conversation with plenty of people who are new to the sport, who are sports people, who are excited about Atlanta United, who are in positions of influence about Atlanta United, about soccer, who are always worried about getting the keyboard warriors, as Bassine says, riled up and attacking them. They're very scared of saying the wrong thing or using the wrong terminology or saying something that gets people angry and then getting attacked. And that's partially why some people choose not to talk about soccer. And that's a shame. That's got to stop. That has to stop as well. Atlanta has shown the way. Atlanta as a soccer city is very different than Seattle. It's very different than Portland. It is not insular for the most part. It is not only the soccer people in the stadium and consuming everything. Atlanta United is part of that conversation with the Falcons, with the Braves, with the Hawks, with college football, with NASCAR, with all of it. It is in the mix. That is what we have always wanted. At least that's what I've always wanted as a soccer person in this country. I've never wanted a fiefdom over here that is like where the cool kids hang out because they like soccer, and banning anybody who dares to watch the Falcons or watch Georgia football or watch LSU or watch whatever. I've never wanted that for soccer. To be what it can be, you need it to be bigger. You need it to be embracing of new fans. You need it to be embracing of longtime football fans, longtime baseball fans. You need it to be mainstream. There's an element to it that I always cross things back over with music a lot. And there's always that element of when a band gets big. And it's like, well, I saw them when they played this little club with 50 people, and I'm cooler than you because I saw them first. No, that's not doing anything for the band. It's cool when you see a band like that. For me, it's cool when you see them then play a huge arena and have more people listening to their stuff. Because if I love that band, if I love the art that they create, I love the music they create, I love that performer, I loved them on that first mixtape, and I'm like, man, I really hope they get big. Because I want them to eat good. I want them to be successful. I don't want it to be just big for me. I want it to be big for the world. I want MLS to be as big of a league as it possibly can. I don't want it to be this little cool thing for people in the know. I want it to be the biggest thing possible. I want it to be the biggest thing in this country. I don't get the soccer mentality of that side either. And could that be affecting this reaction from this AJC beat writer? Yeah, it could. Doesn't excuse it. It doesn't make it okay. It doesn't mean that, oh, yeah, that's the way to handle it because a soccer person said something mean to me one time, so now I'm going to call Atlanta United a minor league soccer team. No, you're looking unprofessional, and you're being very insulting to Doug Robertson, who puts in amazing work at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, who is your colleague.
Yeah.
And you are being incredibly insulting to your colleague. And Doug is a bigger man than most because he has not addressed it publicly, because he is being a good employee and he is being a good colleague. That's the part that angers me about it. Doug works really hard.
Works his ass off.
And has created this beat that not many cities have. And he has created it and built it. And you are trashing it when you say these things. And you work at the same place. And that is incredibly insulting. And for Doug to not take this personally and not go off about it, I have a ton of respect for him. That's what angers me about it. Saying little snide comments like a jealous 8th grader, I don't care. His opinion doesn't shape what the Atlanta sports conversation is. But soccer people have to, and I know it's hard, and I know it's difficult, and at times it gets us all fired up, but you're not going to gain anything from playing his game. Just don't pay any attention to him. Don't click on his stuff. That's how you gain something. If he loses readership over it, that's what ultimately affects it. Calling him a name on Twitter or firing off a snappy tweet doesn't change anything. That's just going to prolong it. He's not clicking on his stuff, not paying any attention to him. That is what will ultimately affect it. But, I mean, I'm with Jigga Ray on this. Personally, I don't know how the AJC is allowing him to despairingly talk about soccer when it is probably the hottest team in the city.
Yeah.
It's bad for your product. It makes me wonder, like, what oversight do they have here? Because it's not even just that insulting element to one of the hottest teams in the city. You're insulting a coworker with the way you're handling this at this point, and that's beyond it for me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it. We've talked way too much about this guy because that's kind of what he wants.
Yeah.
Although he's not listening to us. If he is, hi, how you doing? Please stop being foolish. But no, he's in his own little world, and he thinks this is helping. It's hurting him in the long run. It's going to hurt him more than that comment's going to hurt Atlanta United or Major League Soccer. It is just sad, honestly. It's self-destructive and sad to me, and angers me because of how insulting it is to Doug and the work he puts in.
Would you like to change topics, sir?
Yes, please.
A couple of things from the Airborne DJ, and I went back, and it was something that Tom Russo gave us over the weekend, and it was a video that he linked to, and this will test your brain power here. This is an agree-disagree kind of a thing, and it was a YouTube video that he saw where this one particular individual posted his all USA starting 11. If the men's national team could have their dream team, here's what this one guy chose.
Okay.
If all eligible players could declare for the U.S. men's national team, here was this guy's starting 11.
Okay.
And so Tom says he wanted our thoughts, us and Mike. Agree, disagree, who would you change? And then there were some guys on here that Tom had no idea actually had U.S. eligibility. So here's the 11.
Okay.
In net, Zach Steffen.
All time?
All time. Right now. Like right now. Like,
Well, no, right now or all time. Those are two very different things.
Like right now. If you wanted to trot out a men's national team
that's fine.
right now, that would be a dream team. Here's who it would
I
be.
was about to say Tim Howard or Brad Friedel might be punching people right now. Right now, Zach Steffen, that's fine. I think Brad Kazan might backhand somebody, but I'm okay with Zach Steffen at the moment.
Okay, his back four. Jeremy Toljan.
Okay, I did not know he had eligibility.
African-American father, Croat mother, raised in Germany, so he could actually play for all three.
And where is he playing? What position?
He is.
And where is he currently playing as well?
I believe he's a right back, but because of issues at left back, this guy put Toljan at left back.
That's a little insulting to some of the left backs that are in the squad potentially. What club is he at?
I'll have to look.
Okay, that's a problem. All right, go ahead.
Ramiro Funes Mori.
Where is he these days? He's bounced around. Oh, you don't have this stuff. Okay, never mind. I'll do that part because it's going to take you way too long.
Toljan is right back for Sassuolo on loan from Borussia Dortmund.
Okay, I mean Anthony Robinson's going to be in that conversation. Funes Mori is at Villarreal. I want to make sure Funes Mori would be eligible for the U.S. See, now, okay, this is the question, and this is where, who did this again?
Some dude on YouTube.
Okay, some dude on YouTube, because Funes Mori was born in Mendoza, Argentina.
Right.
He immigrated to the U.S. in 2001 when he was 10. He was part of the FC Dallas youth team in 2008, and then they moved back to Argentina. There is nothing about that makes him eligible for the U.S.
Okay, because this particular individual used the living in the U.S. for living in a country for 5 years rule from FIFA as part of his rationale.
No. Okay, we're not doing this anymore. Done. That rules it out. You're not eligible to play for the U.S. until you're a citizen. It's not about living somewhere for 5 years. That doesn't get you eligible. No, somebody needs to get into the real world. No, we're not doing this. That's a joke. Because you can't play for the U.S. like that. They don't allow you. It doesn't happen.
Okay.
It doesn't. Dom Dwyer.
I'm
Julian Gressel. Like, he's been here for 5 years. He can play. No, he can't. He's not a citizen. And
Okay.
It's not Tom's fault. It's this guy didn't put in the work to actually do this, because this could create an interesting conversation. But yes, when you're pulling out people that nobody's ever talked about as representing the U.S., and then you start to look at the rationale, no, then we're wasting our time.
Okay, because he also mentioned Diego Valeri along those same lines.
Oh, get out. Get out. Now we're done with this. That's nonsense.
Okay.
Diego Valeri is not a U.S. citizen. And also, God, Funes Mori has played for Argentina before, so he's not playing here. He played in the Copa America Centenario. He can't play for the United States.
Although the guy did have an interesting one. He brought in Trent Alexander-Arnold through his maternal grandmother.
Yeah, that's funny. Ha ha ha. That angers me. Tom Russo, come on, man. You sent us down a rabbit hole of bad stuff.
All right. Rich Ransom is in this morning.
What's up, Rich?
He says, MLS2 teams should be about development, but have to want to win games as well to be a part of that development. Sunday through Friday should be about developing the talent, but on Saturday game days, winning the game should matter. Teams like Red Bulls and RSL perfected this. Toronto has not.
Yeah, and Atlanta and Philadelphia are two that are on the road to getting to the right spot with it. I think the thing about it for me is you've got to do the development right. If you have to pick between developing players and winning games, you have to pick developing players. Because ultimately, winning the game on a random Saturday in August in USL Championship doesn't make a player a MLS player. It doesn't. Getting that result doesn't do that. The development along the whole pathway, and the games are part of it, gets you there. It's just like the conversation about youth. Like, you're not a good player because you were on a state cup winning team. You're not a good player because you won some trophies. You're a good player because you're a good player. We have to get to that point. winning is part of development. It absolutely is, and especially at that stage of development. For 12-year-olds, could care less how many trophies they've won. I don't care. 16, 17, 18, okay, you've got to learn how to win. You've got to learn how to bounce back from a loss. The results become more important. At the twos level, which you're dealing with 16 to 18-year-olds, but you're also dealing with players, in 19 to 22 who are right there to become full professionals with the first team. Playing in those situations are very important. It is part of it. It absolutely is. But it can't override development. You can't sacrifice development to win a game. So, for example, Atlanta United 2 in Charleston, it does you no real good. Because I've seen people trying to point out like results and say like, oh, well, this team's no good and there's no good players on it and there's no good coaching in it because they lost games. The game in Charleston's a prime example. You gain nothing from going into a bunker with a 2-0 lead and playing 30 minutes in a very defensive way. You gain 0. You might get 3 points. That's nice. That might get you into the playoffs ultimately. That's good. But you do it at the expense of learning how to play your way under pressure. Did they make mistakes? Absolutely. And they have to learn from those. And the players who don't learn from those are the ones who can't make it. But you gain nothing from just getting that result. You have to learn how to get it in your way. That's going to benefit you in the long run. So results are part of the development question. I don't think it's one or the other, but not both. I think the results are part of the development conversation. And the older you get, the more important part of that conversation they become. But you can't sacrifice who you are and your goal to develop players.
And Rich came in late, and so Rich, he says, I got on late. Who we mad at? Just
Falcons beat writer for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution.
There you go. Do we have soccer over there? Breaking news sounders?
No, we don't have breaking news sounders for soccer over there, but we have breaking news sounder. Is it breaking news or is it developing news? I feel like I have to ask. Okay, it broke.
FC Barcelona and Eric Abidal have reached an agreement for the ending of the contract that united the two parties. The club would publicly like to thank Eric Abidal for his professionalism, commitment, dedication, and the close and positive nature of his relationship with all aspects of the Blaugrana family.
There was talk that he would stay and be part of the mix to rebuild. I believe there was a quote attributed to Bartomeu that they wanted him to stay because he understands where the club is, where the roster is, to be part of this very quick transfer window. Rebuild. I guess that changed. The squad is not good. So the sporting director who's been involved in building that squad probably has to go. It's not a one transfer window issue. It is a long-term issue. So not surprised, but I thought he had survived it. Now we see where they go and who handles this and who's making these decisions. So it's going to get interesting.
And along that line, the second newspaper that we discuss overseas.
We only have one that we don't talk about their name, John.
Okay. Well, then there was the other one that we trust almost
We
as
mentioned
much.
their name. Give them their credit. There's only one that we don't give their credit to.
Okay, the Daily Mail.
Yes. We don't have any issues with the Daily Mail. They're just a little bit lower on the sourcing level. That's all.
Jordan Seward says that Manchester United is trying to line up 4 Barcelona signings as Ole Gunnar Solskjaer looks to cash in on the new camp fire sale with interest in
Who are his 4?
Dembele.
Okay, everybody's interested in Dembele.
Vidal.
I guess.
Yeah. Rakitic.
I like Rakitic, so I'm cool with that one.
And Umtiti.
I don't see him selling him, but if they want to, he would be a very good addition, and they need a center back. So,
I love it!
All right, let's do it.
According to
That's a
Mundo
lot of money.
Deportivo, United are keen to bring all of them to Old Trafford and have already made contact with Barca specifically over Dembele and Umtiti's availability.
This is going to get real stupid, y'all. This is about to get real real stupid because pretty much everybody that has played for Barcelona in the last year is available for transfer. They need money badly to do anything. And like Dembele and Umtiti are two players that I think they would probably like to stay, although it's been pretty consistent that Dembele is available. The other two, yeah, fine. I mean, you're probably talking 10, 15, maybe 20 million in those deals, maybe. They're going to have to sell somebody who has some extra value. But I don't know if they're going to sell both of them. And then there's other guys I think they could sell too. I mean, is it truly a fire sale? Or is it just, we think it might be a fire sale, so we're going to show up at their house because they've got some stuff sitting outside. I don't know if it's a yard sale or not, but I'm going to go there with cash in my hand and see what happens. That's what it feels like.
It's
right
like
now.
You see the yard sale going on, and then you want to go inside the house and check the other furniture.
No, this isn't even that because the yard sale sign isn't even up. This is just like they might be rearranging stuff in the garage. But you see something you like, you go to the ATM, you go get some cash, and then you come back thinking you might be able to buy something. This is what it is right now. The yard sale sign hasn't gone up yet.
And I'm trying to find that particular article that was the follow-up in all of this, but apparently Ronald Koeman is trying to prep for 6 departures. Included in that are Busquets and Jordi Alba.
Yeah, no surprise on either one of them. Tesco had said the problem they had last year was they wanted to sell all those players, but the players didn't want to leave because of the wages. Can you force them out and still come out in the good? You'd have to buy them out of their contract, and I don't think Barca has that kind of money to do that. That's why Gareth Bale is still sitting around at Real
Playing
Madrid.
golf.
They can't buy him out. They don't want to spend the money to buy him out. It's better for them just to let his contract ride. I mean, and he doesn't seem to really care otherwise, so okay, that's where you're at. Barca, I just don't think has the money to buy out like Coutinho or any of these other players. I think the younger guys can go, and you can get good value for them. Those older players on bigger contracts, it's going to be tougher because teams aren't going to want to take that wage on.
Yeah.
And I don't know how Barca handles that. I don't know if you take less in the transfer fee with the understanding, because if I'm negotiating with him, I'm saying, look, like I really like Rakitic. I want to sign him, and I would give you $20 million for him, but he's on a huge salary, so I'm going to give you 10. And I'm going to have to pay what that other 10 that I would have given you is probably going to go to him in his salary. But that's the best I can do, take it or leave it. Yeah. That's the kind of conversation I think is going to come back. John, we have an update on things, and our good friend Jason Wright might be busy.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I think, according to Ricky Ricardo, the MLS fantasy game is back.
Oh,
but I think you have to start from scratch. Did they wipe out the two teams? Let's see. Is it a continuation or not, Ricky? Kefsy's asking that too. I think maybe. Let's see. Maybe I'm clicking incorrect. Sometimes their website frustrates me in terms of signing up and things. Let's see what we get here. It is a continuation, but my team's not there. That's not good.
So we have to reset all of our teams now?
No, I don't know, John. I don't know. My team's not showing up. You log in and see if your team's there, because we have to help you with your team anyway.
Well, yeah, true. The login is obviously not working immediately for me.
It didn't work for me either. This is not good, Ricky Ricardo.
Ricky Ricardo, what are you doing?
Ricky's not running the MLS Fantasy League.
Okay. MLS Fantasy has returned for the remainder of the 2020 MLS regular season. Fantasy Week 3 begins Thursday. And my team is still in place.
So it begins Thursday? So what about the Canadian game today? Do they not love Canada?
Apparently not. Blame Canada.
They didn't do it for the MLS's back tournament, which was regular season games. Ricky's old team was there. I think it's my login that's the problem. I'll go back and fix that. But it starts on Thursday?
Apparently so.
The game
that's what
today?
the header says.
I mean, that's not cool.
Hey.
That's not cool. Why are you dissing Canada?
I got Brad Gazan in net. I know it's a good start for me.
Okay. So then, let's look, since it starts Thursday, let's talk really quick about matchups we like. Let me see if I can actually get into my team real fast so I can have updated numbers to tell you about. I think I know what I did.
Oh, no, actually, well, wait. No.
It's saying I don't have a team.
No. This is a physical impossibility because...
What is your physical possibility?
Because, okay, so Fantasy Week 3 begins Thursday, and I have Pozuelo on my roster, and they have Toronto playing Vancouver.
So they're lying about it starting Thursday. It starts today.
Bunch of fibbers.
I'm confused. Ricky Ricardo, look at what you've done.
Dude.
I am.
Now we're all frantically going to our fantasy teams, trying to figure out what in the wide world of sports is going on.
It doesn't think I have a team anywhere. And
oh wow!
I don't know what's going on. I think my teams got deleted. Not good. We'll figure this out. I'm very confused.
Okay.
Let's look at the matchups though, since I don't have the values in front of me. Maybe John can have the values.
Sure.
I like anybody playing Vancouver from an attacking perspective, but for Toronto, what kind of a question do we have about Josie Altidore and where he is? Or do you start Io Akinola, who was really good in the MLS's back tournament?
Yeah.
I would get Akinola on my squad. Ricky, I'll figure this out afterwards. I'm very disappointed in what's going on with my fantasy team that seems to have disappeared. But we'll talk through it real quick. Akinola, we'll talk about today's game anyway, and we'll reset on everything else. Because if you pick anybody for today, they're locked in for the week. They're not doing, I remember at the beginning of the season, they're not doing the multiple match week thing. So you pick somebody for today's game, this is the performance you get. Altidore, I would stay away from. I just never know if he's going to play. Akinola, I got you, Chris. It's coming. Akinola would be the one I would take a gamble on. I wouldn't touch anybody for Vancouver at all.
Nope.
My wild card when it comes to Toronto from a fantasy perspective would be it's either Richie Larea or Tsubasa Endo. Because they'd probably be good value for their positions. They do get forward and they can score things and they can make things happen. So those are my two wild cards from a Toronto perspective.
Okay. Akinola, for those trying to fish, is right now listed at a $5 million price tag.
See, that's a good number. Go grab him.
So what you're saying is instead of Kyrie Shelton on a 2-match week, grab Io Akinola just to have it?
Sorry, hold on. AO Atlanta chimes in and says, Toronto and Vancouver play twice in the next week, so tonight's match doesn't count. They also play Friday. So now we go back. So it doesn't start today. Tonight's match doesn't count. So we will, I promise you, Ricky, I promise you, MLS fantasy people, we will be ready to do this on Thursday.
Okay.
We were caught unexpectedly here. We will be ready to talk MLS fantasy on Thursday when it all starts again.
Okay. All right. Crisis averted.
Yes. Press release from the United Soccer League. USL and SiriusXM announce a broadcast agreement. New agreement with SiriusXM, which will see the leading audio entertainment company in the United States become the exclusive satellite radio home of the USL Championship and League One. SiriusXM FC will air a USL Game of the Week to its audience around the United States and Canada. This week's USL Games of the Week, so it's not just a Game of the Week, sometimes there are Games of the Week. Austin Bold at FC Tulsa, Wednesday at 8. Phoenix Rising at Las Vegas Lights, Saturday at 10:30 Eastern. Loudoun United at Hartford Athletic, Sunday at 7. Steve Cohen, the SiriusXM Senior Vice President of Sports Programming, said, "We are excited to carry the USL Game of the Week on our dedicated soccer channel, SiriusXM FC. The USL is an intense, passionate, and growing league with terrific fan bases and communities across the country, and we look forward to providing fans of the beautiful game with more live soccer and original talk programming as part of our new agreement with the USL. SiriusXM FC will be the exclusive radio home of the USL Championship Final and the League One Final for the next 2 seasons. I wanted to see if there was more. Here you go. In addition to live game broadcasts, additional programming featuring the championship in League One is also being planned to air on Sirius XM FC. More details will be announced as available. So there you go.
Yeah, because, last weekend it was the Reno 1868 match that was on late night.
They've had games, and I think they had a previous agreement. I think this is a re-upping of the agreement, and I think it includes League One for the first time.
Yeah. And since we're in news media discussions, news out of NBC Sports, Kyle Martino announces on his Instagram that he is not going to be going forward with NBC's Premier League coverage starting next season.
Wow, that's a bit of a surprise.
Quoting Kyle on his Insta, wanted you to know that in the last few weeks, the difficult decision has been made that this past season will be my last on NBC's Premier League coverage. I'm humbled and proud to have been a part of the special coverage we've delivered over the past 7 years. It's been one of the joys of my life to have been on this incredible journey, but it's clear the time has come for me to take on new challenges. It's with tremendous gratitude and appreciation that I say goodbye to my NBC soccer team. I'll still be there every weekend, but now as one of the many fans waking up to watch the best teams in sports cover the best league in the world. Love you guys, Kmart.
I wonder what is next for Kyle Martino.
And this will be the first change that the NBC Sports crew has had with their Premier League coverage since it came online. It has always been the same roster of folks, and this will be the first change that they will have made.
Interesting. I'll be really curious to see what direction they go and where things go. What else do we have on the Twitters before we get into the Twitch pitch?
As I sit here and flip back and forth trying to figure out my fantasy team.
We're not doing that. We already said that's going to be Thursday.
Okay. And actually, we are caught up on Twitter with the exception of Nathan Pugh saying, thanks for not reading that particular newspaper in England.
No, we don't. We don't mention their name. That's the only one we don't mention. Stop hating the Daily Mail and their writers. We question the Daily Mail sometimes, but the other one we don't mention ever. It doesn't happen.
And word out of Orlando City, the Orlando Pride defender Emily Sonnet will join Swedish club Kopparbergs Göteborg FC. It was announced today. In addition, midfielder Jade Moore will be loaned to Spanish side Atletico Madrid. Moore will join the Primera Division side immediately with the loan set to expire February 15th, 2021, and the Pride holding the right to recall.
Okay, but the Sonnet deal is not a loan, correct?
Just says joining set to play in the Damallsvenskan through November 2020.
If they don't say it's a loan, it's not a loan.
Yeah, doesn't say that it's a loan.
Okay, that's what we needed to know. So that's 3 U.S. women's national team players who are playing in Europe now. And like I said, according to the agreement, that's the max number. So anybody else who wanted to go is shut out. Don't know what any of that means. Ricky Ricardo has a question. This has come up this morning as well. Manchester City now has an opening at their number 2 goalkeeper position. Claudio Bravo is leaving Manchester City. Does this mean Zach Steffen may stay next season? I think it absolutely opens the door. This had been talked about before. This is something that's been mentioned. I've been surprised by all of this with Zach Steffen in Manchester City because I didn't think he fit the profile of a goalkeeper for Pep Guardiola. I question his distribution. That's such a critical role for goalkeepers in Pep Guardiola's system. They have to be strong with their feet. They have to be the first part of the build-up. Steffen's got to improve there. If you feel like you can work with him to improve or you feel like he has improved, then okay, I think he could be the number 2, but that side of his game is going to be under a lot more pressure at Manchester City. And I'll be very, very curious to see if he sticks in that. He's going to have to show improvement on distribution. There's just no question. Shot stopping, no problems. Crosses, good. Still some room for improvement, but good. Just command in general, the box can improve. That's traditional for a young goalkeeper. Shot stopping's world class. Distribution is not good coming into this. It's got to get, to be a Manchester City goalkeeper, I think it's got to get to borderline world class. And that's a big jump. We'll see if he can get there. But yeah, the door's open for him right now, absolutely. But is it best for him to sit as the number 2 and train and work on this area of his game and work on everything and just improve, but specifically this? or is it better to go play somewhere? At this point, he's played a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time to be there day in and day out and see if he can get to that next level there. Maybe that's the case, and maybe that's what they're thinking by letting Claudio Bravo go.
Yeah. So I want to see this next stage with Zach Steffen. What's the deal? That's about it for me. Where Zach Steffen's concerned, it's like you played a lot. Are you ready to take that next step? Are you ready to be the number 2 at Manchester City? All right, so here's your chance to show up and let everybody see what you've learned.
All right, what else we got on Twitter? Anything else we haven't touched on?
We're caught up.
We are caught up. Okay. Chris Ashley asked about Kyle Martino. Does he jump to CBS for Champions League coverage? I think you have to consider it. They threw everything together very quickly on this go-round, and I know a lot of people have been fired up about availability. They grabbed it because it was really thrown in the trash. Like, it was not going to air in this country, and they threw a bunch of things together to make it work. I do think they will be – I wonder how different down the road, because they've had a lot of success. The content has been great on both sides. The CBS Sports HQ content has been great with Poppy Miller, with Ian Joy, with DeMarcus Beasley, cast of thousands. The coverage based out of London has been great. I wonder if they're going to keep both tracks going down this. I kind of hope they do, because I like to have both. I like to get all those perspectives. I like the different feels to the shows, because if you want the Kate Abdo hosted version, you've got that. If you want the Poppy Miller hosted version, you've got that. And you've got different perspectives on both. I like that you have some variety. He could fit into the U.S.-based one, no question, easy. I mean, he's obviously got the experience. He's obviously very good on TV. He could fit in right there. It just depends on how much they want to spend to build this out, and do they want to go past where they already are? Do they want to add a weekly Champions League show? Do they want to go down this direction? We'll see. We'll see. It's going to be interesting. Johannes says keep Martino with NBC. He's gone. Like he's gone. He's not coming back to NBC. So, could he go fit into the Champions League coverage? I think so. I really think he could. Chris Ashley has a good point as well. He's doing a lot of work with a nonprofit called Over Under, where they are putting their first U.S. courts in Anderson, South Carolina. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chris. I believe the concept there, because we've seen the mini pitch idea in a lot of different ways. Soccer in the Streets kind of pioneered it in a lot of ways in the U.S. with Street Football World in doing small-sided pitches that were first on like tennis court surfaces. Then they did turf on them. Now the Station Soccer Project is growing. These are combination basketball soccer courts. The whole idea of over-under, it's all about the goal structure, so you can bring a soccer goal down and make it work. We did a court like that at a recreation center in Atlanta as a little bit of a trial, and I think we were probably ahead of the curve on it, because it was an area that didn't really have a soccer culture, hasn't been used a ton for soccer. They pop out of the ground. Okay, cool. I knew it was a combination kind of soccer-basketball thing. I think there's a ton of potential in it. I want to see how it works, and you've got to, as we kind of found with this, and this is going to be not the challenge, because I think his charity is specifically based around the court implementation, not programming around it. But I think partnerships, especially as Chris says, they're in underserved areas of town that can be huge for the growth of the game. They're not huge by just putting it there. You've got to have the programming to get kids to use it, to start to plant those seeds to build that culture. And I don't think that's their goal. I might be wrong. I don't think that's their goal specifically. They've got to create the partnerships to do that. Because just putting a field in is a big step. It's not the only step in some cases. You've got to have the programming to back it up.
No, it's I want to see what Kyle's next step is, and is it makes sense for him to stay in TV? Would the Champions League, Europa League idea, if he stays with CBS, I would think that workload would be a lot less than what he was doing, working 39 or 40 weeks with NBC out of the year, and it would give him the chance to do both his nonprofit stuff and still be attached to the soccer community in a TV sense?
It's tough. I mean, running a nonprofit like that is a full-time gig, and doing TV increases the visibility for a nonprofit like that.
Yeah.
But it's also a full-time gig, so you only have so much time in full-time gigs to work multiple full-time gigs. I've tried to work multiple full-time gigs many times in my life, and it's pretty difficult. You end up in a puddle of tiredness at the end of all of it. But he's incredibly motivated on this growing the game side, and it's very cool that he's able to put some time to it. I'm curious to see if he puts more time to it right now to try to capitalize on it, and maybe not find a full-time gig on TV, but find a part-time gig on TV. He's very good at TV. I think Kyle has done great work with the NBC Sports crew and with Champions League and being that American voice in that group. Great to have him there. I hope they do have another American voice. I'm a little biased. I like that American voices can actually factor into soccer coverage in the United States. I think it's kind of important.
Yeah.
I'm also biased. Again, I'm not going to lie to you. I think it's important to have that. I think when it is only voices from outside the United States, it limits the coverage a little bit. And I don't know if it can completely catch with everybody. I do think you need those American voices involved. So I hope Kyle's voice stays in the American soccer media landscape. I just don't know in what realm, because I do think he is absolutely committed to the mission of what he's doing to grow the game. And it's exciting to see him really jump in with both feet into that world as well, a world that is very difficult. And you have to do a lot of things that people don't see. You have to do a lot of work behind the scenes. You have to really grind to get some progress. And once you get, like the court's done in Anderson, it's the next project. It is the next thing straight away. You don't get time to celebrate. And it's tough. It's a very tough thing. It's a very rewarding thing, too. So excited to see what the next moves are for Kyle.
Breaking news sounder, please.
Jeez, how many breaking news things are we going to get today? This is madness. Hold on. Here we go.
From Gentry Estes at the Tennessean, no fans will be allowed for Titans games or Nashville SC games at Nissan Stadium for, quote, at least, end quote, through September, Mayor John Cooper announces.
Easy to do that after Atlanta made the announcement. I think they had to. Again, there's a huge political issue with the bars in downtown Nashville, because that has been a fight going on for a long time. He can't have fans at sporting events and have the bars closed. He can't do both. So he's made the decision, and I think from what we've seen in terms of outbreaks, I think he's made the right decision. On the bar side, he's got to follow down that road on the sports venue side. I just don't think there's another way to do it.
Ian Ayre and Titans President and CEO Burke Nihill were at Mayor Cooper's daily COVID-19 press conference, and the Titans will play without fans in their home opener against the Jacksonville Jaguars September 20th. From Ayre, as we prepare to return to playing games back at Nissan Stadium starting August 30, we'll miss the support from those 60,000 fans. Whilst we all know the value of fans to their team, we believe it's important that we all take responsibility in fighting this virus by taking a responsible approach for the safety of everyone. That means wearing our masks and adhering to all CDC protocols so together we can control it, minimize it, and we all hope that as a result of this continued responsibility, we'll be able to welcome you back at Nashville SC matches in a safe environment soon, end quote. Article from USA Today from 10 days ago. The Titans initially were hoping to be approved for 25% capacity for home games this season. That would have meant 17,286 for the Titans. Forbes' Mike Ozanian, if you don't follow him on Twitter, he's a great follow in the sports business side of things, estimates that the Titans could lose about $110 million in revenue this season if no fans are allowed in the stadium for any of the team's 8 home games, to give you an idea as to what we're talking about dollars-wise.
I think that article from 10 days ago couldn't happen after the changes with the bar scene. I just don't think it was possible. So It's not a battle you could win. So that means Orlando is the one in this group that we're waiting to hear. And I believe it was Julia Poe who had it in one of her dispatches about Orlando City had submitted a plan for having fans at Exploria Stadium to local authorities, and it has not been approved as of yet. So they're efforting, but nothing has happened yet. The other three, Atlanta, Miami, and Nashville, will not have fans for this, or Atlanta and Nashville will not have fans for this phase of play. Miami might, but it sounds like they won't.
Right.
So we will see. Jiggeray with an interesting comment, and this is going back to the soccer media conversation that we've had ongoing today. I'm curious on any personalities that will go to digital only. On the football side, and this is a pretty big piece of news in the football media landscape, Deion Sanders left NFL Network and is now at Barstool. We know Barstool's digital presence. There are others. Bleacher Report now has the partnership with Major League Soccer that we haven't gotten into yet. Right. That was announced yesterday. It's a multi-year deal, digital content development and distribution. They did some trial stuff during the MLS's back tournament, and the numbers were great for Bleacher Report, their second highest month ever for BR football, which is pretty wild that they had Champions League rights. And this, during the MLS's back tournament, was their second highest month ever for BR football. That's substantial. I think that's why you get into this deal. Forbes says it's a low seven-figure sum. Bleacher Report will publish content across its digital channels in a bid to reach new fans. Creates the potential for additional revenue through branded content opportunities. It also brings Turner into the conversation for MLS's next broadcast rights contract. And Seth Bacon, who's the senior VP of media for MLS, said, "We will go first to ESPN, Fox, and Univision, but this deal definitely opens the door for Bleacher Report to have a voice in the conversation." That current deal ends at the end of the 22 season. They can't start really negotiating until a year before it expires. That was reported a few years ago when there were reports that Ricardo Silva had offered $1 billion for the rights for TV, and they're like, "We can't even negotiate with you." And people are like, "Oh, that's hokey. That's not true." Like, well, you have contracts. You can't just say, "I'm going to go negotiate with somebody because they're offering me money." Madness. So Turner, according to the reports, and this was echoed in Sports Pro this morning, they're interested in MLS rights. They could be an option for a streaming package. Don't know if it would be like the ESPN Plus package with all the out-of-market, or if it would be a separate streaming national game that you would have to watch on Bleacher Report. That'd be interesting. They're also consolidating their BR Live and main Bleacher Report app, and they're kind of getting everything into one piece. I think a lot of people tried to have these multiple channels and formats and distribution channels, and people are realizing, ESPN's done it too. It's like, let's put it all in the same place.
Yeah.
So Bleacher Report's also got digital highlights and content from U.S. men, U.S. women as part of the deal. So this was through Soccer United Marketing. Okay. Back to Jiggeray's point about digital content. We're seeing a lot of different things in the soccer world on this. You have a partnership now with a new group kind of in the field that is doing the Jason Davis show, the Best Soccer Show. That's come back. That is a digital property that is going to grow. They're looking at other shows in that world. You have what Fubo TV has done with their digital properties that are, being streamed. The Cooligans have a show there. I think you're seeing soccer jump into that conversation in a really big way. I just don't know if the money is there yet.
Right.
That's the question. And for a guy like Kyle Martino or other people at that level, is the money there for them at a BR Live, for example? If BR Live wanted to do an MLS show, let's go hypothetical with this. They've got the rights. They can do stuff with it. They want to do an MLS weekly show. It doesn't make sense for somebody established to go there, or you're going to have to go with new people because of the voices, because of the cost.
Yes.
I'm assuming the latter, but I don't know. I mean, if they're really serious about getting into the broadcast game with MLS, you're going to have to put a really serious product on. And you're probably going to want established voices to get people to subscribe to get it. It would take something for me to subscribe to BR Live, because I didn't for Champions League. I did not subscribe to it. I didn't need it for what was there. I did subscribe to CBS All Access, first for NWSL, but I kept it for what they've done with Champions League and Europa League. And I'm going to continue to keep it because the product has been really good. BR never got me to that point to subscribe to the additional content because I had all the games I wanted over the air. And there wasn't anything extra for me. Now I want to see if they go down that road, because if they want to get the MLS broadcast deal and they want to get a slice of it, or they want to outbid part of ESPN, Fox, or Univision, they're going to have to come with quality as well, because I don't think MLS would go there unless the quality blows the others away. That's the question for MLS, and I think Mike Conti's had this point many times, and I totally agree with him. MLS is in this really unique spot in that they need as much money from this broadcast deal coming up as you can possibly get. You need revenue. You need to go get as much as you can. But there's also great value in the over-the-air stuff that they get through their current partnership. You know, this Atlanta United-Orlando game being on Big Fox, for example, that's massive. You know, getting games like you're going to have on ABC this year, massive. ESPN, respect it. You're on ESPN, you're big time. You know, I feel like I always bring it up. The NHL leaving ESPN, they took a huge hit for a while.
Yeah.
Now they bounced back. It took a long time to build that credibility. They bounced back. People, and I don't know, I mean, you'd have to tell me, do they still, the quality's great on what they do with NBC, but do they still take a hit because they're not talked about on ESPN in the same way?
Well, I think that ESPN still dips their toe in the pool with Linda Cohn and Barry Melrose, and what they've started to do is give them digital material where they can
now it's a different conversation because of digital.
Now it's a different conversation. Initially, the first time when, and this is going back to TV deals, when the NHL went to Sports Channel away from ESPN initially and took the paycheck, and no one could get Sports Channel because it was only available in X number of homes and it was not accessible to the entire country, that created an issue for the NHL when it came to their viewers. Then they go back to ESPN. ESPN the second time, then Versus comes into the discussion, which is now in CSN.
Right.
And you had an issue. It's like, what's Versus? And it was the brand ID that stunted the growth of the NHL with the new television deal after ESPN decided they wanted to invest in baseball and college football and all that other stuff. And the NHL kind of became fifth, sixth, seventh idea in their chain, goes over to Versus, goes to NBCSN now. And NBCSN has, especially in this current environment with the Stanley Cup playoffs, the viewership has increased, but they also have all of the digital stuff that they've done and the streaming and all of that. So it's taken NBCSN a while to go three-dimensional with it, but they're getting growth, and there are still folks who will go to ESPN because of the personalities like Linda Cohn and Barry Melrose to get their information.
No, hold on. That's not the question, though, and this is the question for MLS. Would the NHL be in a better place if they were talked about in the ESPN world more? Because they're not. They're not talked about there in a big way. If you're a hockey, you're going to go find it, just like soccer fans. If you want the content, you're going to go find it.
Yeah,
no problem. But your average fan, which going back to the bigger conversation we had earlier, for soccer to grow, you need the average new fan to come on board. There's only so many soccer fans. There's only so many hockey fans.
Yep.
Has hockey just retreated into its bubble with this, and they're not attracting new fans? I kind of feel like they have, even though the content's really good now.
Yeah,
I don't pay attention. I'm not a hockey fan. I don't stumble on it on ESPN. You get more MLS highlights on a Sports Center than you do for hockey, correct?
You do. Yeah, and there are times when you'll see Linda Cohn talk about that on ESPN, wishing that there was more.
Now, this is where you get back to the MLS question. Is MLS at a point where they could go down that road and say, you know what, we're going to take the money, we're going to go do this because they're going to give us a lot of money, because they're going to have to give us the money to get the deal. We're going to take it because we need the money more than the mainstream content. Or do you really need that mainstream content? I don't know the answer. I don't think anybody truly knows the answer.
Yeah.
It's a really difficult spot because MLS is right there with the National Hockey League, and depending on who you talk to, some people think it's already ahead, some people think it's below, and it'll always be below because it's not the Big Four.
Yeah.
I think they're right there, but on the side.
Yeah.
They're in a different section.
Yeah.
But they're at that same level. I don't know if they benefit. It's going to be fascinating over the next couple of years. The digital side has changed everything.
Yeah.
Because, again, we can do a show on Twitch. We can do our podcast. Anybody can do this stuff. You can do it. You attract viewers and you keep viewers by putting out consistent quality product. Mm-hmm. That's what separates it. But the barrier to entry is non-existent anymore. Now, that next step of being on some form of a digital platform that has more viewership than you can create yourself, that's another conversation. If you're a hardcore fan, you're going to find it. If you're a casual fan, you're not going to look. Does MLS grow more by going back into the bubble and growing engagement from their existing hardcore fans, or do they need that crossover into the mainstream? I lean latter, and I think in a perfect world, you find both.
Yeah, no, in a perfect world, you do find both. But yeah, I'm with you. I think it is the latter.
I think the dipping the toe into this would be a national streamed game on ABR Live. And I know that would fire people up, and I know people would be mad because they're already mad about games that are in Spanish language exclusively. You can't go full streaming. I don't think MLS is there yet. I don't know if any league is there yet, to be honest. The NFL could do that if they wanted to because they can do whatever they want, and people would follow it because they have to. Yeah. But no other league could do that and maintain where they are. They would take a hit. The hardcore fans that would buy anything would buy it, but you would lose the casual fans. It's an interesting one. I think Jigga Ray says they need to cross over. I agree. I think they need it. But they need to explore new things in digital too. Yeah. That's the challenge. But I think MLS right now gains more than just dollars from being on Big Fox, from being on ABC, from being in the ESPN platform, even with some people who say negative things about soccer. They gain more in that than they would in straight up cash from a BR Live if they had exclusivity. I think MLS is going to try to create different pathways for people to be on board and grow it together, and I'll be curious to see how they do that.
Yeah.
A couple more things before we wrap up. So Toto Dynamo, what's up, Toto? Toto said, one thing I'll never understand about MLS and streaming and TV deals are the blackouts. Keep so many people from being in contact and learning how to love the sport. Super quick, I'm assuming you probably have this background better than I do. Baseball originated blackouts, or was it football?
Baseball.
I thought so. So baseball originally created blackouts because you didn't want to hurt your home attendance.
50 miles.
Yeah, it was all about, like, you didn't want people to watch on TV instead of buying a ticket. I mean, even to the point that I remember when the Braves came to town, minor league teams in, like, Asheville, North Carolina, were angry about Braves games being on local radio because they thought that people would listen to the game as opposed to going to watch the Asheville minor league team. So that factored into it. It's an old throwback. There's been talk about getting rid of blackouts just in general in sports. Like, there's been talk about it. It comes up occasionally. You've seen it over the years in the NFL where a game's going to be blacked out locally because it's not sold out, and somebody will step up, like a local business will buy the rest of the tickets to get it not blacked out. That's kind of ridiculous. MLS doesn't have that at all. So what MLS does with their streaming, and I get it, and Toto, I think there's another element to it that complicates it. So the problem is there's not uniform local streaming. Like here in Atlanta, you have the Fox Sports Go app that you watch Fox Sports South or Fox Sports Southeast on. They have that. So they're not going to allow ESPN Plus to have it because they paid for those rights to have it on their platform. Some teams don't have a local streaming partner, but it's still blacked out on ESPN Plus. That makes no sense.
Yeah.
That's where I think MLS needs to come in with every team at the beginning of the season and say, okay, TV deal, Check? Not check. Okay. Who is it? Whatever. You're sorting all that out with stuff going to ESPN Plus, stuff going to Vista for international markets, all that. Okay, cool. Next step, local streaming partner. Because some stations have their own local streaming platform. The Fox networks have that. Some don't. So, okay, who's your local streaming partner? Oh, you don't have one. Okay, here's your option. ESPN Plus is not blacked out in your local market. I'm not 100% sure on the hardware side if you can do that or not. I don't know. That's something you have to figure out. Or MLS needs to figure out at that point, okay, the local streaming partner, because we know that MLS has done this with like the throwback games that they did during the beginning of the pandemic with preseason games. If you don't have a local streaming partner, then it's got to be available on the team's website. No questions asked. You should always have a local ability to stream. Now, beyond that, out-of-market streaming is all going to be ESPN Plus because they pay for it. But you've got to have the option to stream one way or another. And I know it's complicated sometimes, and it's weird if you are 50 miles or whatever the region is from Houston, for example, and you wouldn't go to the game because it'd be like 2 hours to go there and back, but you can't watch on ESPN Plus. You have to have somewhere to watch. The loopholes that has happened every year with MLS, they've got to clean that up because it's just hurting your availability. You've just got to be organized to do that. That's something they have to put emphasis on. And then the next step, and Joe Boss asked about it, does every team have local radio? And they don't. Not everybody does. Not everybody travels for local radio. I think there's even a few who don't do every game for local radio. There's some who don't have a radio station partner but do streaming for their radio coverage, their audio coverage. It's kind of all over the place. And those are not geo-blocked. Those have been available, like NFL, for example, because they have a national partnership with SiriusXM. Their games are not available on streaming places. I think they are in the local market. I think you get back to the same TV conversation. They're available streaming in the local market, but they're not available outside of that. They're geo-blocked. You'd have to listen on SiriusXM FC. So radio is something that I feel like, obviously, again, I'm very biased here. I feel like radio is a necessary component for MLS teams to have. And if they don't have it on a local radio partner, they need to have it on their website or on TuneIn or somewhere for audio coverage. That's been something that I look at what teams are doing in other countries, and Aberdeen, for example, has their games available on Red TV to watch internationally because nobody has the rights here in the United States. But if you are in the coverage area in Scotland, and I believe it's Sky that has the rights now, if I remember right, if you're in that area, you can't watch it on Red TV, but you can listen. You get the audio coverage, so you get the radio coverage, essentially. That stuff's important. I mean, there are people who... Our ratings have shown it. There are people who enjoy consuming games in that way. And it needs to be available. It's an alternative. It is a way for people who can't watch. It's a way for people to just enjoy the medium of radio. So it needs to be part of this conversation, too. All of this leads to better coverage. All of this leads to more access to information. All of this leads to the game growing.
And Colonel's in late this morning, and he says, Nashville TV, if you live in town and don't have cable, you got to have an antenna to watch because it's on My TV 30. Everybody still has an antenna, right?
That was a huge issue with Nashville, is that their partnership, you don't have the local streaming component at all. And is it available on cable?
I think that I'm trying to see who the ownership group is, and if it's Sinclair, it might be the disagreement with the local cable.
I think that's what it is, if I remember the conversation about it. So, yeah, you've got to watch on the antenna, which is really difficult. But they have local radio. Nashville's got local radio, and you have that component too.
Yes.
So it's huge. I mean, Jason Nix, yes, I agree. Good local radio and support from local sports radio can make a big impact. 92.9 stepping up was big. I completely agree, not because I'm there. It's it's big because people I know listen who would not have listened or consumed anything because they found it on the radio and they heard people that they listen to every day talking about it. It's huge. It's a huge component that I don't think some teams fully understand how huge it can be. It's been a big deal here. It's been a big deal for the radio station. The ratings have been better. You know, you go back to when the team started to now, the ratings are higher. It's just a fact. So it's exciting to see that and exciting to be a part of it. And I hope it continues to grow, and I hope others learn from it. I was glad Nashville had radio from day one. I want to see what Austin does. I want to see what Charlotte does. Miami kind of followed a European model a little bit, at least from the press release I saw. They've got local TV. They've got Spanish language radio. I think they have English language audio available on their website. They don't have an English language radio partner, but they have the streaming ability on their website for just audio, not video, which is okay. That's a good step in the right direction, but I do think the radio partner is key where you can find it. So,
yes.
All the stuff. We got all around the world on stuff today, and we got all deep into media and broadcast and digital content and all that, which is fun too. Sometimes we start talking about players and who should be playing number 9, who should be playing the left back, and sometimes we get into what should the content look like going forward. Welcome to soccer down here. It gets a little out of hand sometimes. Nothing else the rest of the day from us. I will be deep into studying these 3 teams that Atlanta United will be seeing over the next 3 weeks. Nashville first. You've got Miami. You've got Orlando. I got some games to watch. I got some things to get caught up on. Make sure you're following us on Twitter at Soccer Down Here. We'll share any of the latest news. I think you've got a 1v1 coming up later, right?
That is correct. President of the Gulf Coast Premier League, Jeremy Paklimba. We're catching up later this afternoon to discuss the GCPL and their relationship with NISA, how it came about, teams participating in the Cup competition recently, and where the relationship is going from here. So it'll be an interesting conversation. That'll be out on the network later this week.
All righty. And we'll be back in the morning with a Wall Pass Wednesday. Mike Conti will be joining us. We'll get ready for games coming up this weekend. We'll also look back at the game tonight, Toronto and Vancouver. 8 o'clock kick, is that correct?
It is an 8 o'clock kick at 2000 hours. Yes, sir.
ESPN Plus for that. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow. Mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha plata, y'all.